Hi, welcome to Last Day on Earth. Before we begin, I want to ask you something simple. Where are you listening from tonight? And what time is it for you? Is it deep in the night, when the world feels still? Or maybe the early hours of morning, when the sky is just beginning to turn? Wherever you are, this moment is yours. Tonight we're going to explore a question that feels almost impossible. What if the future already exists? Not waiting to be written, not waiting to appear, but already here in the fabric of the universe. Imagine every moment of your life, the ones you've lived, the ones you are living now, and even the ones you've yet to reach. All of them preserved like stars in the night sky. So take a breath, let the noise of the day fade, and allow yourself to drift with me into the quiet. Together, we'll wander through the strange and beautiful possibility that nothing is ever truly lost, and that the future might already be waiting for us. Chapter 1. The question itself. What if the future already exists? We usually think of the future as something not yet written, a blank page waiting for us to decide what to fill in. But some scientists and philosophers suggest that might not be true. The idea is that the past, present, and future all coexist at once. That means tomorrow is already there, waiting, as real as yesterday. This thought is unsettling at first. We like to imagine the future as open, flexible, something we can shape with our choices. It is comforting to think that what happens next is unwritten, that we have the freedom to guide it. But what if we are not shaping it at all? What if we are simply moving through a timeline that is already fixed? Think about watching a film. When you sit in a theater, the movie plays from beginning to end. You see each scene unfold in order. One follows the next. But the entire story is already there, stored on the film reel or the digital file. Your experience of it feels like it is being created in the moment, yet it is already complete. Some physicists argue that our lives, and even the entire universe, might work like this. Imagine your whole existence laid out like a path, from the day you were born, to this moment now, to the day you will take your last breath. All of it existing together, not one piece missing. You feel as though you are walking forward step by step, but the path is already carved, already stretching endlessly in both directions. Einstein himself spoke about this. He said that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. To him, time was not a flowing river carrying us along. It was more like a landscape. We move through it, experiencing different parts of it, but the whole landscape is already there. Close your eyes for a moment. Think about tomorrow. You cannot see it yet. You cannot touch it. But if it already exists, then it is as real as this moment. You just have not reached it. This is what physicists call the block universe, a place where all of time exists together. Now let us take this idea slowly. In our daily lives, the present feels unique. It feels alive, immediate, urgent. The past feels gone, unreachable. The future feels uncertain, yet to be shaped. But science suggests that this division might only live in our minds. The universe itself might not make that separation at all. Think about standing on a mountain. From the peak, you see the valleys, the rivers, the roads winding across the land. The people down below walking their paths cannot see the full picture. They see only the step in front of them. But from above, the entire journey is visible. The block universe is something like this. From within it, we see only now. But from outside, past and future might look equally real, equally present. If that is true, what does it mean for choice? When you decide what to eat tomorrow, or whether to take a new job, or whether to call someone you miss, is that decision really being made in the moment? Or has it already been made, set into the fabric of space-time long before you arrived at it? It is a heavy idea, but not without beauty. If the future already exists, then every version of you is alive somewhere in time. The child who once learned to walk, the teenager who once dreamed of the future, the the adult making choices now, the older version who looks back. All of them exist together, not lost, not gone, each one preserved in the fabric of the universe. This way of seeing things changes how we think about memory too. We imagine memory as something stored in our brains, fragments of what once happened, but maybe memory is more like a window, a way of looking back into the parts of the block universe we have already passed. When you recall a moment, maybe you are not just remembering, maybe you are brushing against something still real, still existing in another slice of time. And maybe the future is like that too. Maybe moments that have not happened to you yet are sitting there, waiting, whole and complete. You cannot see them, because your mind only works in one direction. But if you could, maybe you would find your future self just as real as your past self. Some cultures and philosophies have long believed that time is not linear. Ancient traditions often describe cycles of time, eternal returns, or destinies already written. What science now whispers is strangely similar. The possibility that the universe does not erase the past or invent the future, but holds all of it at once. As you listen to this, notice how your body feels in this moment. The air around you, the position of your hands, the beating of your heart. This moment feels unique, like the center of the universe. But if the future already exists, then some version of you is also lying in tomorrow night. Some version of you is already years ahead, smiling, crying, working, resting. All of those versions, just as real as the one here now. And if that is true, then time is not something we are moving through at all. It is something we are inside of. Every second, a room we step into, every moment, a place we visit. The journey is not being written, it is being walked. The question is not just about physics. It is also about how we live. Do we panic less about the unknown if we accept it is already there? Do we worry less about mistakes if they were always going to happen? Or does it take away meaning if nothing we do can change what already exists? This is where the thought becomes both comforting and unsettling. On one hand, it suggests nothing is ever lost. On the other hand, it suggests nothing was ever open. As we continue, we will explore what science, philosophy, and even daily life say about this possibility, that the future is not waiting, but already exists. As real as this moment, Chapter 2, How We Experience Time. Time is one of the most intimate things we know. Every day we wake up, move through our routines, and fall asleep again. We divide our lives into hours, days, and years. We look back at what has already happened, and we imagine what has not yet arrived. For us, time feels alive. It feels like a current we are always swimming in. Our brains are designed to create this sense of flow. Memory pulls the past into the present, while imagination stretches forward. We cannot touch the future directly, but we constantly reach for it. We plan tomorrow's meals, next week's work, next year's goals. Our whole sense of identity is stitched together by the way we see ourselves stretched across time. Think about memory. When you remember your childhood, you are not simply recalling facts. You are reliving feelings, smells, and sounds. Memory places you back in those earlier moments, almost as if you can step inside them again. The same is true when you anticipate the future. You create detailed images of what might come, the walk you will take, the conversation you might have, the place you hope to see. Psychologists suggest that this ability to travel mentally through time is what makes us human. A cat may remember where it last found food, but it does not sit awake at night, imagining a different tomorrow. We do. We constantly stretch ourselves beyond the moment, filling our heads with stories of what has been and what will be. But here is the strange thing. Our perception of time is not stable. Sometimes an hour feels endless, waiting in a queue or stuck in traffic. Sometimes a whole day vanishes quickly, like sand slipping through your hands. Children often say that a year feels eternal, but adults feel it passes in a blink. This shows that time is not just physics, it is also psychology. It is felt as much as it is measured. Consider dreams. When you dream, time behaves in bizarre ways. Hours of experience can feel like they happen in minutes. You wake up unsure how long you were asleep. This hints that the brain constructs time rather than simply receiving it. We are not just passengers in time. We are also its storytellers. If the future already exists, then what role does this storytelling play? Perhaps memory is not a fragile reconstruction of what once was, but an echo of something still alive in the block of time. Perhaps imagination is not speculation, but glimpses of what is already laid down. The way we experience time might not be a reflection of reality at all, but a mask hiding what really is. Think about when you sit with a friend. You laugh together, share words, but feel present. In your mind, it is the now. Yet if Einstein was right, then this moment is not slipping away. It is eternal, preserved in space-time, somewhere in the universe. This conversation is still happening, never gone. This means that when we say time passes, it may not pass at all. Instead, we pass through it, like a traveler moving from one town to the next. The towns do not disappear when you leave them. They remain where they are. The same could be true for moments. Your childhood bedroom, your first day at school, your last birthday. They still exist. They are just no longer where you are standing. We tend to treat the present as the only thing that matters. The past is gone. The future is uncertain. But perhaps all three are equal. Perhaps the sense of the present being special is a trick of consciousness. Maybe now is not more real than yesterday or tomorrow. Maybe all moments are equally solid. If that is true, our experience of time is like a flashlight shining in the dark. The beam only illuminates one patch at a time, but the whole room exists, whether lit or not. Our minds may only shine on the present, but the rest is still there. This opens a new question. If the future already exists, then why can we not see it? Why can we recall the past, but not preview what is coming? One answer is entropy. The universe is built with an arrow of time. Memory forms in one direction, not the other. That gives us the illusion that only the past is accessible. But if space-time is a block, then the limitation is not physical. It is psychological. Think about music. You hear one note at a time. The melody unfolds in sequence. You feel the rhythm. You anticipate what might come next. But the whole song is already written, sitting complete in the sheet music or the audio file. You just cannot hear it all at once. Our minds might work the same way, tuned only to play the song of time in order. So the way we experience time might not tell us the truth about what time really is. It tells us only how our brains move through it. The future may already exist, waiting in the score. We just have not reached that part of the song, Chapter 3. Einstein's universe. When we talk about whether the future already exists, we cannot avoid Einstein. His theory of relativity did more than change physics. It changed the way we think about reality itself. Before Einstein, time was seen as absolute. A second was a second. No matter where you were, no matter what you were doing, the universe ticked like a perfect clock. The same for everyone. Einstein shattered that picture. He showed that time is not absolute but relative. Time bends, stretches, and slows depending on how fast you move or how close you are to a massive object. Suddenly, time was not one universal drumbeat. It was personal. It was woven together with space into a single fabric we call spacetime. Imagine spacetime like a giant map. Every point on that map marks an event. It could be you taking a step, a star exploding, or a planet orbiting past, present, and future events are all on this map. They are not created when you get there. They are already drawn. You simply trace your path through them. To understand this, think about relativity in action. If you were traveling close to the speed of light, time for you would slow down. Compared to someone staying still, you might travel for a few months. But when you return, decades might have passed for your friend back home. For you, the future of Earth already existed while you were still in your short journey. You just had not caught up to it yet. This is not science fiction. It is tested fact. Atomic clocks flown on airplanes show tiny differences in time compared to clocks left on the ground. GPS satellites in orbit must correct for time dilation to work properly, without adjusting for relativity. Your phone's map would lead you kilometers off course. That means time really does bend, really does shift. If time bends, what does that mean for the future? It means that the flow of time is not universal. There is no cosmic now that everyone shares. Your now and my now might not be the same, depending on where we are and how fast we move. Our slices of time cut space-time differently. This brings us back to Einstein's vision of the block universe. If time is just another dimension like space, then all of it exists together. Think of a book. When you read it, you move from page 1 to page 2 to page 3. The story feels like it is unfolding, but all the pages are there from the start. The end already exists before you reach it. In Einstein's universe, your life is like that book. Take an example. Imagine two twins. One stays on Earth. The other travels on a spaceship near the speed of light. When the traveling twin returns, less time has passed for them than for the one on Earth. To the space traveler, the future Earth already existed while they were aging slowly. They simply intersected it later. This shows how the idea of the future being already there fits naturally with relativity. In Einstein's equations, there is no special marker for the present. The math does not highlight now. It treats all times equally. This is a clue that past, present, and future might all be equally real. It is only us, living inside the equations, who feel the flow. But Einstein's view is not just about cold numbers. He also wrote about its human meaning. In a letter after the death of a friend, he said that for those of us who believe in physics, the difference between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. To him, his friend was not truly gone, only existing in another part of the block. This way of seeing time reshapes how we think about life. If the future already exists, then perhaps we should not see ourselves as writing it, but as discovering it, like explorers following a river. The bends are already there. Our journey is not to carve new paths, but to travel the ones set into space-time. That does not mean life is meaningless. It simply changes the frame. Imagine looking at a painting. Every brushstroke is fixed. The whole picture is complete, but your experience of it is still powerful. You trace your eyes over it. You notice colors and shapes. You feel emotions. The painting does not change, but your relationship with it does. In Einstein's universe, time is that painting, complete yet full of lived meaning. This view is difficult because it challenges our sense of free will. We feel like we can alter tomorrow, choose one path over another, but relativity suggests tomorrow is already written into space-time. You will make a choice, yes, but that choice is already there, waiting for you to walk into it. Think of light from a distant star. It left millions of years ago, traveling across space. When you look at it tonight, you are seeing the star's past. But from another point in space-time, someone might see our present as their past. There is no privileged moment. All events are simply coordinates on the map. And yet, for all its cold clarity, Einstein's universe is also strangely comforting. If every moment exists forever, then nothing is truly lost. The laughter of childhood, the warmth of a family meal, the quiet of a night sky, they are still there. They do not vanish. They remain real in their own coordinates, even when we move on. So when we ask, what if the future already exists? Einstein's universe offers one of the strongest answers. It tells us that the question is not if, but how. It suggests that time is not a line we are drawing, but a landscape we are walking through, a place where every step, past and future, is already waiting. In the next step, we will look at why the present is not universal, why your now may not match mine, and how this changes everything about how we see time. Chapter 4. The Relativity of Now. We often believe in something called the present, a single universal moment that everyone shares. You and I are here, together. In this instant, the world around us is happening right now. The sun is shining. A train is moving across a city. A child is taking a first step. It feels like all of this belongs to the same present. But relativity tells us that this is not true. There is no universal now, no single cosmic heartbeat connecting every event. Instead, what is now for one observer may not be now for another. Time is relative to motion and position. It bends, it shifts, it disagrees. Imagine two people. One is standing on Earth. The other is in a spaceship moving near the speed of light. Each of them defines a present moment by what they see, by the events happening around them. But relativity shows that their slices of now do not line up. What is in the present for one person may already be in the past or still in the future for the other. This is hard to grasp because our everyday lives trick us into thinking that now is absolute. When you clap your hands, you hear the sound. You feel the sting. You assume that everyone else who sees it shares the same moment. But relativity reveals that simultaneity is not universal. Take a simple thought experiment. Imagine two lightning bolts striking opposite ends of a moving train. To someone standing on the ground, the bolts appear to strike at the same time, but to a passenger riding the train, moving toward one bolt and away from the other, they do not seem simultaneous. One flash reaches their eyes first. Even though both events happened according to the ground observer, the train passenger disagrees. Both perspectives are correct. That means there is no single, shared present. This destroys the comforting picture of a universal now. Instead, reality is made of slices. Each observer carves out their own plane of the present. Each slice includes different events. For you, a star in a distant galaxy might still be in its shining present. For me, that star may already have exploded into a supernova long ago. Both of us are right, because now depends on where and how we observe. If the future already exists, this relativity of now becomes even more striking. It means that some events we call the future are already someone else's past. Some events we believe to be far away in time are already present in another frame of reference. The universe does not honor our division of past, present, and future. It holds all events equally. Einstein himself explained this with humility. He said that the distinction between past, present, and future is only an illusion. If you think carefully about the relativity of now, you begin to see why. If simultaneity is relative, then the present cannot be fundamental. It is not a feature of the universe. It is a feature of how we move through it. Think about looking at the night sky. You see stars scattered across the heavens, but what you are really seeing are different slices of time. A star might be 100 light years away, so you are seeing it as it was 100 years ago. Another may be 1,000 light years away, so you are seeing it 1,000 years in the past. Your sky is not a single present. It is a patchwork of histories woven into one vision. This makes the idea of now feel fragile. You and I believe we share this moment. But if we were moving differently, racing past each other near the speed of light, our present moments would not match. My now would not include your now. That means the present is not an anchor. It is a shifting perspective. If that is true, then the future must already exist in some form. Because when we disagree on what is present, one person's future is already happening in another frame. Consider the train again. If for me the lightning strike is in the future, but for you it is already present, then that event cannot be waiting to be created. It must already exist in the fabric of spacetime. This conclusion is unsettling. We like to think that the future is hidden until it arrives. But relativity shows that what is hidden for us might already be unfolding for someone else. The universe has no single theater stage where the play is performed line by line. It is more like a vast library where every page exists at once. Each reader moves through it differently, but the pages themselves do not vanish or appear. Let us slow down and imagine this library. Each event is a page. The birth of a star, the fall of an apple, the sound of your voice. They are all stored on shelves stretching across space-time. When you live through your life, you are walking the aisles, pulling one page after another, but the whole library exists. Whether you have reached the pages or not, this explains why some physicists support the block universe view. In a block universe, past, present, and future all exist together. There is no universal now, only perspectives, only slices. If you move differently, your slice cuts space-time differently, revealing another arrangement of what you call past, present, and future. Think of space-time as a loaf of bread. Each slice is a now. You cut the loaf one way. You see one arrangement of events. You cut it another way. You see something else. But the whole loaf exists. Every slice is already there. This thought changes how we imagine life. If the present is relative, then we are not all sitting on the same moment. We are travelers moving through different parts of the block, some ahead, some behind, some overlapping, some diverging. It also changes how we think about destiny. If an event is in the future for me, but in the present for you, then destiny is not something waiting to unfold. It is something already written, already part of the loaf. We are simply approaching it at different angles. This does not mean that our experience is meaningless. It means that our experience is one way of traveling through the block. Your story is still your story. Your feelings are still real. The fact that the future exists does not erase the importance of living it. So when we ask what if the future already exists, relativity tells us that it must. Because if the present is not absolute, then there can be no sharp boundary where the future begins. Every now is just a slice, and every slice is already in the loaf. The relativity of now is difficult to accept, because it overturns our daily intuition. But once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Time is not what it feels like. The present is not universal. The future is not waiting to appear. It is already there. Chapter 5. The Block Universe Theory. We have walked through the idea of Einstein's relativity, and we have seen how the present is not the same for everyone. We have felt how the notion of now dissolves once you think about lightning on a train, or stars in the sky, or two twins aging differently. All of this points toward a bigger idea, one that many physicists and philosophers take seriously. It is called the block universe. The block universe says that past, present, and future all exist together, not as possibilities, not as shadows, but as realities. They are not waiting to be created. They are not erased after they pass. They are stitched into the fabric of space-time, permanent, unchanging, complete. Picture a loaf of bread again. Each slice is a moment. One slice is your birth. Another is your first school day. Another is this very instant as you read these words. The slices do not vanish when you move forward. They do not appear from nothing when you arrive at them. They are already part of the loaf. You are simply moving your conscious awareness through them. Another way to imagine it is a film reel. Every frame exists before the projector shines light through it. When you watch the film, you see one frame after another. The story feels like it is flowing, like the characters are making choices, like the ending is being shaped. But all along, every frame was already there. The beginning, the middle, the end. Your life may be like that. Your future scenes are already in the reel, waiting. This view is sometimes called eternalism. It stands in contrast to presentism, which says only the present is real, and the past and future are illusions. Eternalism argues the opposite, that every moment is equally real. You eating breakfast last year is as real as you eating dinner tomorrow. The only difference is where your awareness is shining. If you step outside of time in your imagination, the block universe looks like a vast frozen landscape. All events are arranged like mountains and valleys from within. You only see the road in front of you. From outside, you see the whole landscape. You see the peaks that are your happiest moments, the valleys that are your struggles, the rivers that are your choices. They are all there, carved into the terrain. This is why Einstein found comfort when his friend died. He believed his friends still existed in another slice of spacetime. Just because Einstein had moved past that slice did not mean it vanished. It was still there, preserved in this way. The block universe is not only a scientific theory, it is also an emotional idea. It says nothing is ever lost. It says every laugh, every hug, every small detail of life remains real. But this picture comes with challenges. If the future already exists, then what does it mean to choose? When you decide whether to move to a new city, or take a new job, or confess your feelings to someone, do you have freedom, or are you simply playing out a role that is already written? This is the tension between eternalism and free will. Eternalism says your future is already part of the block. Your choices are there. Your outcomes are there. You cannot change the loaf. You can only move through it. Free will seems to fade in this picture. For many, this is troubling. But there is another way to think about it. You still experience the choice. You still feel uncertainty. You still weigh options and feel emotions. The fact that the outcome exists already does not erase the reality of your experience. In the same way that a character in a book still lives a vivid life, even though the author has already written the ending. Think of Hamlet. Shakespeare wrote every line centuries ago. Yet when you watch the play, Hamlet still appears to struggle, to wonder, to make decisions. To him, it is real. To us, it is fixed. The block universe suggests that we are Hamlet. We are living our roles, feeling our choices, not realizing the script is already written. Philosophers debate this. Some say free will is an illusion. Others argue that free will is compatible with eternalism, because what matters is the process of choosing, not whether the outcome is predetermined. Your conscious weighing of options, your values, your hopes, those are part of the block. They exist just as much as the result of your choice. This theory also affects how we think about death. If all moments exist forever, then death is not an erasure. It is simply a boundary between slices. The version of you laughing as a child still exists. The version of you working hard in the present exists. The version of you in old age exists. They are all equally real. This can be strangely comforting. Life is not a flame that burns and goes out. It is a mosaic of moments fixed in space-time. The block universe also gives new meaning to memory and imagination. Memory might not be a reconstruction of what is gone. It may be a direct connection to a slice that still exists. When you recall holding a loved one's hand, you may be brushing against a piece of space-time that is still there. When you imagine your future, perhaps you are sensing, faintly, the slice that already awaits you. Of course, not all scientists agree with this view. Some argue that the block universe is too rigid, that it denies the openness we feel in reality. They prefer theories like the growing block, where the past and present are real, but the future is not yet. Others defend presentism, insisting only now exists, but relativity makes those views difficult, because it destroys the idea of a single universal present. Still, the block universe remains powerful. It is consistent with relativity. It explains why time is not absolute, why simultaneity is relative, why we experience slices. It also ties deeply into human questions of meaning, memory, and mortality. Think again about the film reel. You might worry that if the whole movie is already there, then living it loses value. But that is not how we feel when we watch films. We cry, we laugh, we feel suspense. Even though we know the ending is already fixed, our participation gives it life. The block universe might be the same. Your role matters not because you shape the reel, but because you live it. This does not erase responsibility either. You still act, you still respond to situations. Those responses are part of the block. War, kindness or cruelty, your honesty or dishonesty, your love or indifference. They all exist. Just because the future is fixed does not make your actions less real. They are etched into space-time, alongside every star and every galaxy. So the block universe is not only a scientific hypothesis, it is also a way of seeing ourselves. It says that the future already exists. Just as the past exists, it says that we are travelers in a frozen landscape, carrying the illusion of flow in our minds. In the next chapter, we will look closely at free will. Can we still believe in choice if the block universe is true? Or must we accept that our lives are paths we can only walk, never change? Chapter 6. Free will and a fixed future. If the block universe is true, then your future is already written into space-time. Your choices, your successes, your failures, your joys, your regrets, so all of them are etched into the loaf of time. You are simply walking toward them, meeting them one by one. But this raises a heavy question, one that sits at the heart of philosophy. Do we truly have free will? Free will is the belief that we can genuinely choose, that the path ahead is not fixed, that we could have done otherwise. When you decide what to eat tonight, or whether to call an old friend, or whether to take a risk, you feel like the outcome depends on you. You feel the weight of choice pressing on you, and you believe the future is not determined until you act. But if the future already exists, then those choices are already there. You will call, or you will not call. You will take the risk, or you will not. That moment is not waiting to be created. It is already part of space-time. You just have not reached it yet. This idea is difficult because it suggests free will is an illusion, like Hamlet in Shakespeare's play. You feel the tension, you feel the decision, but the script was already written centuries ago. Hamlet does not know his fate, but we do. Likewise, you may not know your future, but it is already real. Does this mean nothing matters? Some philosophers say yes, that free will is impossible in a block universe. This is called determinism. Determinism says that everything, from the formation of stars to the flicker of thought in your brain, unfolds according to fixed laws. If that is true, then your sense of choice is only the experience of moving through what was already determined, yet not everyone agrees. Some argue for compatibilism, the idea that free will and determinism can coexist. They say free will is not about creating new futures. It is about acting according to your own reasons and desires. Even if those reasons are already part of the block, when you choose to help someone, it still matters, because your values shape the path. The fact that it was fixed does not erase the meaning of the act. Think of it this way. In a novel, the character's decisions are already written, but inside the story, those decisions are still theirs. The hero who sacrifices something does so because of who they are, not because the author forced them. Their choices are authentic within the narrative. You're the same. You are a character inside the block universe. Your choices are real to you, shaped by your mind, your feelings, your circumstances. The fact that they are fixed does not change their authenticity. Neuroscience adds another layer. Studies show that the brain often begins preparing an action before you are conscious of deciding it. For example, when someone is asked to press a button at a moment of their choosing, scientists can see brain activity building seconds before the person reports feeling the decision. This suggests free will might be less free than we think. Still, even if your brain prepares, you still identify with the act. You still feel it is you who chooses in the block universe. This makes sense. The brain's preparation, your conscious feeling, the action itself, all of them are fixed slices. Together, they form the experience of choice. Now consider morality. If the future is fixed, are we responsible for our actions? If someone harms another person, can they say they had no choice? Most philosophers reject this excuse. They argue that responsibility is still real because it is part of the structure of the block. Accountability, praise, and blame are also fixed within the timeline. They are part of how society functions. Imagine a river. The bends are already carved, but within it, the water still flows, it still twists, churns, rushes, slows. Your life may be the same. The path is fixed, but the flow is alive. You still experience struggle, triumph, decision, doubt. Those experiences are not meaningless just because the outcome is known somewhere in space-time. This view also changes how we think about regret. If the block universe is true, then every mistake you made was always going to happen. You could not have done otherwise. This might sound bleak, but it can also be freeing. Regret becomes lighter because you stop imagining alternate paths. You walked the one that existed. You did what you could within the structure of time. And what about hope? If the future already exists, is hope pointless? Perhaps not. Hope is part of how we live. It is how we move through the block. Hope is not about changing the future, but about engaging with it before we know it. It gives meaning to the journey. Even if the destination is fixed, philosophers often debate whether we are agents in control or puppets following strings. But maybe that is the wrong picture. Maybe we are travelers through a landscape. We do not build the mountains, but we still climb them. We do not carve the rivers, but we still cross them. The challenge and the meaning come from the experience itself, not from altering the terrain. Think about art again. When you listen to a piece of music, the notes are already written. The whole song exists, but hearing it unfold brings beauty, suspense, and joy. You do not need the song to be unwritten to appreciate it. The same may be true of life in a block universe. The music of your existence is already composed, but you still live it measure by measure. So free will in a fixed future might not be about breaking the block. It might be about understanding your role inside it. You are still the one who laughs, cries, decides, dreams. Those slices exist because of you. They are your contribution to space-time. This way of seeing things can be unsettling, but it can also bring peace. It suggests that you are not failing when things do not go as you hoped. You are not off track. You are exactly where you were always meant to be. That does not erase effort or meaning. It deepens them. In the next chapter, we will turn to quantum uncertainty. Some believe that at the smallest scale, the future is not fixed at all. That randomness might open cracks in the block, cracks where possibility slips in. Chapter 7. Quantum Uncertainty. When we talk about the block universe and the idea that the future already exists, one challenge always rises: quantum mechanics. At the deepest level of reality, things do not look fixed. They look uncertain, random, full of possibilities. The electron can be here or there. The photon can take this path or that one. The equations of quantum mechanics describe probabilities, not certainties. So what does this mean for the future? If the block universe is true, the future is already etched into space-time. But if quantum mechanics is true, the future seems to flicker with uncertainty. Each outcome has a chance, and we cannot know which will happen until it does. Think about a simple coin toss. At the classical level, if you knew the force of your thumb, the air resistance, the angle, you could calculate the outcome. But at the quantum level, uncertainty is fundamental. You cannot know both position and momentum exactly. You cannot predict outcomes perfectly, only probabilities. This principle is known as Heisenberg's uncertainty. It is not about limitations in measurement. It is about reality itself. The universe is not deterministic at the smallest scales, at least not in the way we once imagined. Now imagine a radioactive atom. You cannot predict the exact moment it will decay. It might happen in a second, or in an hour, or in a year. All you can do is assign probabilities. The decay is not predetermined in classical terms. It is random. Does this randomness mean the block universe is false? Some scientists think so. They argue that if quantum events are uncertain, then the future is not fully written. It is open, at least in part. Each quantum event could branch into different outcomes, and those outcomes ripple upward into larger systems. Perhaps this is why some believe in the multiverse, where every possibility plays out in some universe, but others argue differently. They say the block universe can still exist, with all possible outcomes included. This is sometimes called the many worlds interpretation. In this view, every possible future does exist, carved into the larger block. You may experience only one thread, but the other threads are also real. Somewhere in space-time, each version of you exists. This idea can be dizzying. Think of a tree. The trunk is the present. The branches are the possible futures. Each branch is already grown, already part of the tree. You will walk along one branch, but the others do not vanish. They exist alongside, real and complete. Even if we set many worlds aside, there is another argument. Some physicists suggest that quantum randomness might still be compatible with determinism. They propose hidden variables, unseen factors that make every event fixed. We just cannot see them. If that is true, then the block universe stands untouched. Either way, quantum mechanics complicates the picture. It makes us wonder if the future is fixed or partly open. If it is fixed, then uncertainty is only an illusion, the product of ignorance. If it is open, then the block universe must stretch to include every possible outcome. Think about Schrödinger's cat. The cat is both alive and dead until you open the box. In quantum theory, the future of the cat is uncertain until observed. But in a block universe, both outcomes already exist. In one slice, the cat is alive. In another slice, the cat is dead. You just move into the slice that corresponds to your observation. This view can make life feel strange. It suggests that every possibility you imagine is real in some slice of space-time. The version of you who took the job, the version who refused, the version who never met a certain person, they all exist. You are living one thread, but the other threads are also there. Some find this comforting. Others find it overwhelming. If all outcomes exist, then perhaps nothing is truly lost. Every path you dreamed of still exists, somewhere. You simply are not the one walking it. Quantum uncertainty also raises questions about free will. If the future is truly random at the smallest scales, then maybe choice exists after all. Maybe uncertainty gives us a crack of openness, but if every outcome exists in the block, then choice is still part of a predetermined structure. You choose, but that choice is one branch among many, already part of the tree. This is where physics and philosophy blur. Quantum mechanics describes probabilities. Eternalism describes existence. Together, they raise a deep question. Are we moving through a fixed block, or are we part of a branching multiverse, where all futures are real, from the human side? The difference may not matter. You still experience uncertainty. You still wait for results. You still flip the coin and wonder. Your brain is not wired to see the block, or the branches, or the hidden variables. It is wired to live moment by moment. But at night, when you sit quietly and imagine tomorrow, you might wonder, is tomorrow already there, waiting for you to walk into it? Or are there many tomorrows, and you simply do not know which one you will meet? Either way, the idea is extraordinary. Quantum uncertainty shows us that reality is not as rigid as we once thought. It also shows us that our sense of time may be even stranger than relativity suggests. The future may be fixed, or it may be a set of branching probabilities, or it may be both. In the next chapter, we will look at entropy and the arrow of time. Because even if the block universe is true, and even if quantum uncertainty plays a role, there is still the feeling of time flowing forward. We need to ask why we experience direction at all. Chapter 8. Entropy and the arrow of time. Even if the block universe is true, and even if quantum uncertainty adds layers of possibility, there is still something we cannot ignore. We feel time flowing forward. We do not drift randomly between past, present, and future. We move in one direction, always forward, never back. We grow older, never younger. We remember yesterday, but not tomorrow. We see eggs break, but never see broken eggs reassemble. This sense of flow is what physicists call the arrow of time. The arrow of time is tied to a physical principle called entropy. Entropy is a measure of disorder. When things are neat and ordered, entropy is low. When things are messy and spread out, entropy is high. Over time, entropy tends to increase. This is the second law of thermodynamics. It tells us that the universe as a whole moves toward greater disorder. Imagine an ice cube dropped into a glass of water. At first, the ice is solid and cold. The water warmer, the system is ordered. But given time, the ice melts. The temperatures equalize, entropy increases. You never see the reverse. You never see water spontaneously separate into ice and liquid again. That is entropy in action. This is why time feels like it flows forward. It is not that the block universe has a current. It is that we are built to notice entropy increasing. Every process we experience follows that direction. Our memories form in one way. Our bodies age in one way. Our universe expands in one way. But here's the paradox. If the block universe is real, then all slices exist. The low entropy past, the high entropy future, the messy middle, all of it is there. So why do we only experience one direction? Why do we never step into the past? Some scientists argue that our minds are entropy machines. Memory forms when entropy increases. The arrow of time we feel is simply the arrow of entropy written into our biology. Your brain encodes memories as it dissipates energy. That is why you remember what has been, not what will be. Even if the future exists, your mind cannot access it because entropy does not run backward. Think about shuffling a deck of cards. When the cards are ordered, the arrangement is unlikely. When you shuffle, you move toward disorder. That process can be reversed in theory. But the odds are astronomically low in practice. It never happens. Our whole universe works like that deck. It began in a low entropy state, the Big Bang, and has been shuffling ever since. This also explains why death feels final. Life is an ordered process, a careful maintenance of low entropy. Over time, disorder wins. Entropy takes over. The body stops keeping order, and the process of decay begins. From the perspective of the block universe, those slices of life still exist, but from inside, entropy ensures we only feel the movement toward the end. Now imagine if entropy were reversed. If disorder decreased instead of increased, time would feel reversed. You would remember tomorrow instead of yesterday. You would watch a broken glass leap up and reassemble. You would see smoke collapse back into a cigarette. In a block universe, those slices exist too, but we are not built to access them. So perhaps the arrow of time is not fundamental to the universe. Perhaps it is fundamental to us. Our perception of flow may be like a flashlight in the dark, shining only forward, never back. The whole room exists, but our light only points in one direction. Still, entropy is not just perception, it is physics. Black holes, stars, galaxies, all obey the laws of thermodynamics. The arrow of entropy is written into the universe itself. That is why physicists puzzle over the beginning. Why was the Big Bang so low in entropy? Why did the universe begin ordered, only to unravel? This mystery matters because it shapes the block universe. If the entire loaf of spacetime exists, then why does one end have low entropy and the other high? Why is the pattern not symmetrical? We do not know. Some think the universe is cyclical, expanding and contracting, resetting entropy each time. Others think the initial conditions simply are what they are. For us, the arrow of time defines experience. It makes the block universe feel alive, because even if every slice exists, we cannot roam freely. We march forward with entropy, like hikers on a one-way trail, unable to turn back. This raises an interesting question about the future. If the future already exists, then the high entropy end of the universe is already real. The heat death of the cosmos, a state of maximum disorder where no structure remains, is already in the loaf. We are simply far from it, walking slowly toward it. This thought can be sobering, but it also highlights the wonder of the present. The fact that we live in a universe still filled with structure, still resisting entropy fully, means we are in a rare slice. Stars shine, with planets orbit. Life evolves, all because we are in a moment when entropy has not yet reached its peak. Entropy gives us time's arrow, but it also gives us meaning, because things change, because order dissolves, We cherish what we have. A meal shared with friends, a sunset, a fleeting laugh. These moments matter because they will not repeat. They are fixed slices in the block, and entropy ensures we feel them as unique. So entropy does not erase the block universe. It explains our experience inside it. It tells us why the future feels like it lies ahead. Even though it is already there, it tells us why we cannot remember tomorrow. Even though it exists, the arrow of time is the thread stitching our story. It is why we feel progression, why we tell narratives, why we believe in growth and decline. Even if the block universe is true, and every moment exists eternally, entropy ensures that we live it step by step. In the next chapter, we will explore what it means to live inside the block, not as abstract theory, but in daily life. What does it feel like if the future already exists? How does it shape our sense of meaning, love, and identity? Chapter 13. Time paradoxes. When people first hear that the future might already exist, they often ask about time travel. If all of time is laid out like a block, then perhaps we could move not just forward, but backward. If the past is still there, why not visit it? If the future is already carved, why not see it? But the moment you imagine traveling through time, paradoxes appear. They expose the strangeness of living in a block universe. The most famous is the grandfather paradox. Imagine you step into a time machine and travel to the past. You meet your grandfather before he has children. If you stop him from meeting your grandmother, then your parent would never be born, and you would never exist. But if you never exist, then you could not have traveled back in time to stop it. The paradox loops endlessly. In a block universe, this paradox is solved by consistency. If the past already exists, then you cannot change it. You cannot kill your grandfather before your parent is born, because the slice of time where your parent is alive already exists. Whatever you do in the past must be consistent with the block. You might travel back, but your actions will fit into the story that is already there. The block does not allow contradictions. Another paradox is the bootstrap paradox. Imagine you build a time machine. You travel to the past with a notebook of equations. You give those equations to a famous scientist who publishes them, inspiring you in the future to travel back with the same notebook. Where did the equations come from? They were never created. They exist in a loop, in a block universe. This loop is part of the structure. The equations exist without origin, preserved in spacetime. These paradoxes show how strange our idea of causality becomes. If the future already exists, we usually think cause comes before effect. You plant a seed, and later a tree grows. But if all time exists, then cause and effect may not be fundamental. They may only be how we experience the block. This also explains why time travel stories often end in closed loops. If the block universe is real, then events must be consistent. If you travel back to warn someone, that warning was always part of the block. It did not change history, it fulfilled it. You cannot create a new timeline because the block already contains the path. But what about traveling to the future? In one sense, we are always doing it. Every second, every breath, we move forward. In another sense, relativity shows us that speeding up or slowing down time is possible. If you travel near the speed of light, decades pass on Earth, while only years pass for you. When you return, you have leaped into the future. That is time travel consistent with the block. You simply took a different route through space-time. The paradoxes also highlight why free will feels fragile. If the future already exists, then time travel does not give us new freedom. It only reveals what is already written. If you step into tomorrow, you will see exactly what was always there. You cannot alter it, because alteration would mean rewriting the block. Some philosophers argue that this makes time travel meaningless. Others argue that it makes it more profound. Because if you could travel through time, you would see the truth of eternalism directly. You would see that nothing is erased, nothing is waiting, everything is already there. Paradoxes also connect with quantum mechanics. Imagine trying to change the past. If the block must remain consistent, then perhaps the attempt always fails. Or perhaps, in a many worlds view, the block splits, creating a new branch. Eternalism resists branching, but many scientists explore it because it solves paradoxes neatly. In that picture, your grandfather survives in one branch and not in another. Still, pure eternalism insists on one block, not many. That means paradoxes are not real contradictions. They are illusions created by thinking. We can alter what is fixed. If you travel back, you were always meant to. If you hand your grandfather a book, you were always meant to. Nothing changes. Everything is already there. This may feel unsatisfying because it denies the drama of time travel, but it also makes the block universe stable. Without this rule, the block could fracture. With it, the block remains whole. Paradoxes also raise emotional questions. If the future already exists, then do we have the power to prevent tragedy? If you knew a disaster was coming, could you stop it? In eternalism, the answer is no. Your attempt to stop it is part of the block. If you succeed, it was always destined. If you fail, it was always destined. This feels heavy, but it also fits our experience. We live with uncertainty. We try to act, and outcomes unfold. From the block's view, those outcomes are fixed. The block universe also reframes stories of prophecy in myths and religions. Prophets see the future and cannot escape it. Their attempts to avoid it only cause it. This is not just storytelling. It mirrors the logic of eternalism. The future is not waiting to be created. It is already there. Prophecy is not a prediction. It is a glimpse. Think also about déjà vu, that eerie feeling that you have lived a moment before. Some say it is the brain misfiring, but in eternalism, it could be a tiny fracture in awareness, a brush against the block. Perhaps your mind glimpses a slice it has not yet reached. So paradoxes do not destroy eternalism. They reinforce it. They show us why the block must be consistent, why nothing can be changed, why time travel, if it is possible, only reveals what already exists. This may disappoint those who dream of rewriting history, but it also offers peace. The past is not fragile. It cannot be undone. The future is not waiting. It cannot be destroyed. Both are secure in the block. In the next chapter, we will take the thought further. If the future already exists, then what would it mean if we could actually see it? Not just predict it, but look into it directly. Chapter 14. If we could see the future, if the future already exists, then it is not a blank page waiting to be written. It is a chapter already printed, already bound into the book of the universe. But what would it mean if we could see it? Not just imagine, not just predict, but truly glimpse the slices of space-time that lie ahead. At first, it seems powerful. To know tomorrow's events today would give us control. You could avoid danger. You could seize opportunity. You could prepare for joy or sorrow. A stock trader might see the market's next move. A doctor might foresee a patient's illness. A parent might know what happens to their child. It feels like the greatest advantage, but in a block universe, the story changes. If the future exists, then seeing it does not let you change it. It only reveals what was always there. If tomorrow you are destined to meet someone, and you see that today, then you're seeing it as part of the block. Your awareness is included in the slice. Your attempt to alter it will still lead to the same outcome. This makes foreknowledge a paradox. Imagine you see yourself spilling a cup of coffee tomorrow. You decide to avoid it. You stay away from coffee shops. You drink tea instead. Yet somehow, the event unfolds anyway. You trip near a table, and the tea spills. The detail changes, but the event is fulfilled. In eternalism, this is inevitable. The future slice exists, and you cannot step outside it. This echoes myths and prophecies across cultures. In Greek tragedy, Oedipus is told he will kill his father and marry his mother. His parents try to prevent it, and in doing so, they cause it. Oedipus himself tries to escape it, but every step fulfills it. The prophecy is not a warning. It is a glimpse of a block already written. Now think about emotions. Would you want to know your future? Some say yes. They want certainty. They want to remove doubt. Others say no. They want mystery. They want freedom. Eternalism suggests that knowing does not erase uncertainty. It only moves it. You still wonder how events unfold, even if you know the destination. If you saw your whole life in advance, how would you live? Would you lose motivation, knowing every detail? Or would you live with deeper attention, savoring each moment because you know it is unchangeable? Some philosophers argue that foreknowledge could deepen meaning. If you knew today was the last time you would see someone, you might treasure it more. The fact that the moment is fixed makes it sacred. There are also dangers. If you could see future pain, you might suffer twice, once in anticipation and again in experience. If you could see future joy, you might cling to it, longing for it to arrive. Knowing could distort life as much as it clarifies. Science offers small glimpses of this idea. We cannot see the future directly, but we can predict with probability. Weather forecasts, medical diagnoses, economic models. They do not reveal slices of the block, but they give shadows of what is to come. When they are right, we feel as though we have seen ahead. But in eternalism, accuracy simply means we brushed against what was already real. Some experiments even hint at stranger things. Psychologists have studied phenomena like precognition, where people seem to respond to future events. The evidence is controversial, but the very idea shows our fascination with glimpsing ahead. If the block exists, perhaps our minds sometimes touch it, faintly. Now imagine a world where everyone could see their futures clearly. Society would change. Insurance would collapse, because risk would vanish. Elections would lose suspense, because outcomes would be known. Relationships would transform, because everyone would know whether they endure or end. Would we live more peacefully, accepting what is written, or would we despair, unable to dream of change? This is why some philosophers say ignorance is mercy. To not know the future allows us to live it as discovery. Even if it is fixed, we experience it as if it is unfolding. That experience gives life flavor. Without it, existence might feel hollow. Seeing the future also raises the question of free will again. If you know your decision tomorrow, do you still choose? Eternalism says yes, but only in the sense that your choice is already there. Your knowledge is part of the block, not outside it. You choose, but the choosing was always fixed. From a spiritual perspective, Islam traditions see glimpsing the future as enlightenment. Mystics speak of timelessness, of visions that collapse past, present, and future. In eternalism, these might be moments when awareness brushes beyond its narrow slice. But for most of us, the beauty of life lies in its unfolding. To not know is to hope, to fear, to dream. These emotions matter. They shape how we live. They give us energy. In a block universe, the unfolding is illusion, but it is a necessary illusion. Without it, we would not feel alive. So what would it mean if we could see the future? It would not let us change it. It would not grant power over destiny. It would reveal the structure we are already walking. For some, this would bring peace. For others, despair. The truth would depend on how we carry it. In the end, perhaps not knowing is part of the design. Perhaps we are not meant to see the block all at once. Perhaps life is about living each slice with attention, not rushing to the end. The mystery itself gives us meaning. In the next chapter, we will ask how this idea changes us. If the future already exists, how should we live differently? What wisdom does it offer for regret, for hope, for the way we treat each other? Chapter 15. How this idea changes us. If the future already exists, then the way we live and the way we think about life begins to shift. The block universe is not just a theory about physics. It is also a mirror for how we experience meaning, regret, hope, and love. By imagining ourselves walking through a landscape that is already carved, we start to see our place in it differently. Think about regret. Regret is one of the strongest feelings humans carry. You remember a decision and wish you had chosen another path. You replay conversations. You think about things you said or did not say. You imagine that a different action might have changed your life. But in a block universe, there are no alternate paths. The slice of spacetime where you made that decision already exists. You could not have done otherwise. This does not mean regret vanishes, but it takes on a new quality. Instead of wishing for another road, you begin to see regret as part of the fabric of your story. Your mistake is preserved forever, but so is your growth afterward. The apology you made is also eternal. The lesson you learned is also etched into spacetime. Every action, good or bad, is permanent. This permanence can be heavy, but it can also be liberating, because you stop fighting against impossible alternatives. Hope transforms in the same way. We usually think of hope as a desire for something that does not exist yet. A better job, but a healed body, a peaceful world. But if the future already exists, then those outcomes are already real in slices you have not yet reached. Hope is not about pulling them into being, but about moving toward them. When you hope for joy, you are reaching for a slice of space-time where joy is already there. This does not make hope meaningless. It makes it deeper. It becomes less about creation and more about arrival. You do not make the moment exist, but you prepare yourself to meet it. You carry yourself with faith that the slice you long for is already shining. This gives hope a kind of certainty, not of control, but of assurance. Love too changes under this lens. When you fall in love, when you hold a friend's hand, when you comfort someone in grief, those slices do not vanish. When the moment passes, they are eternal. Your hug remains. Your words remain. The presence you gave to someone continues to exist, even if you never see them again. The slice is still alive in the block. This knowledge can soften loss. When someone dies, we feel as though they are gone, but in eternalism, their moments remain. The laughter you shared is still there. The meals, the conversations, the silences together, all of it exists. You cannot walk back to those slices, but they are not erased. This gives grief a different shape. Responsibility also becomes sharper. If every act remains forever, then what you do matters even more. Cruelty is not washed away by time. It is preserved. Kindness is not fleeting. It is preserved too. Every word you say, every gesture you make, becomes a permanent part of the block. This can make you careful. It can make you generous, because you know the traces you leave are eternal. Think about ordinary days. We often dismiss them as unimportant. The morning routine, the small conversations, the quiet moments. But if the block universe is real, then those ordinary slices are as eternal as the great ones. They are not wasted. They are not erased. They are part of the eternal mosaic of your life. This perspective can reduce the fear of time slipping away. People often feel anxious that life is rushing past, but eternalism says nothing is lost. Every birthday party, every walk, every moment of solitude remains. You are not losing them. You are simply moving through them. Death itself is reimagined. Usually we see death as the end, but if all slices exist, then life is never erased. The version of you alive now will always exist in space-time. Your childhood still exists. Your adulthood still exists. Your final days already exist. All of them are equally real. This thought can comfort, because those we love are never gone. Their slices remain, and we ourselves are never truly erased. But there is also heaviness. If the future already exists, then our pains exist, too. Our heartbreaks, our illnesses, our losses, they are waiting for us. This can feel cruel, yet it can also give us courage, because even pain is only one slice. It is not the whole block. The suffering exists, but so do the moments of joy, of healing, of love. Living inside the block universe encourages humility. We like to imagine that we are in control, but eternalism reminds us that we are not authors. We are participants. We walk the script. We do not write it. This can be unsettling, but it can also be freeing, because instead of struggling for control, we learn to focus on presence. Presence becomes the deepest practice. If every slice is eternal, then the task is to live each one fully, not to rush through it, not to regret it, but to be awake inside it. The meal you eat, the book you read, the conversation you have, all of it deserves attention, because each slice will remain forever. Think of music when you listen to a song. The notes are already written, but you do not say it is meaningless to hear them. You live inside the song. You cry. You dance. You feel life is the same. The notes are fixed, but living them still matters. Growth is also reimagined. We usually think of ourselves as becoming, changing from one version to another, but in eternalism, all versions exist together. The child you were, the adult you are, the elder you will be, all are equally real. You are not a line, you are a collection, a constellation of selves, each preserved. This can bring gratitude. You stop clinging to progress and start cherishing presence. You stop obsessing over who you will become and start honoring who you are. You realize that each version of you is eternal, but acceptance is also part of this, because while every slice exists, you can only inhabit one at a time. You cannot relive yesterday. You cannot leap ahead to tomorrow. You can only stand in the slice that is given. This limitation can be frustrating, but it is also what gives meaning. Without limitation, life would lose its texture. Without loss, joy would lose its sweetness. The block universe preserves everything, but our consciousness still flows, and that flow is what makes us human. Living with the idea that the future already exists can make life gentler. You stop fighting against what cannot be changed. You stop fearing that time will erase you. Instead, you begin to see yourself as part of something larger. You live with more patience, more presence, more care. And in the end, perhaps this is the greatest gift of eternalism. It shifts us from control to attention, from fear to acceptance. It reminds us that our laughter, our kindness, our mistakes, our love will remain forever. The future already exists, and so do we. In the next chapter, we will close our journey, reflecting on what it means to live in a universe where nothing is ever lost, and where the future is as real as the present. Chapter 16. Closing reflection. We have spent time together moving through this question. What if the future already exists? It is not a simple question. It is not one that gives a clean answer. Instead, it unfolds like a vast horizon. Every step we take toward it reveals new details, and yet the horizon keeps stretching farther. Through relativity, we learned that there is no single now. Your present and my present are not identical. An astronaut's present in orbit is not the same as a person standing on Earth. The universe does not honor the division we make between past, present, and future. They are all woven into the same fabric through the block universe. We imagine time as a loaf, a book, a painting, all slices already there. Nothing created in the moment, nothing erased after it passes. Eternalism whispers that every event exists equally. The birth of a child, the fall of an empire, your quiet breath right now, all slices are real. Through philosophy, we wrestled with choice and freedom. If the future already exists, then what does it mean to choose? Are we free, or are we walking a script that was always written? Some thinkers said free will dissolves. Others said it survives, but only as the authenticity of our inner process. Through quantum mechanics, we found uncertainty, particles flickering between possibilities, probabilities instead of certainties. Perhaps this opens cracks in the block, or perhaps it means that every branch of the tree already exists, your life extending not in one direction, but in countless directions, all preserved. Through entropy, we learned why we feel the arrow of time, why memory looks backward, not forward, why we age in one direction, why broken glass never leaps up to reassemble. The universe moves toward disorder, and that flow shapes our sense of passage. We feel time not because it moves, but because entropy increases through paradoxes. We saw the loops and contradictions that time travel invites. The grandfather paradox, the bootstrap paradox. All of them dissolve if the block is true. Nothing can be changed because nothing is open. The past cannot be rewritten. The future cannot be avoided. Consistency is the rule, through prophecy and foreknowledge. We imagined what it means to glimpse what lies ahead. We saw that knowledge does not bring freedom. If you see the future, you are only seeing what was always going to happen. Your attempt to change it is part of the block itself. And through reflection, we asked how this idea changes us. What does it mean for regret? For hope, for love, for responsibility. If everything is preserved, then nothing is wasted. If everything is fixed, then nothing is meaningless. So here, in closing, we gather these threads. First, let us speak of regret. Regret haunts us because we imagine alternatives. We tell ourselves we could have acted differently. We could have spoken softer. We tried harder, chosen another road. Eternalism cuts through this illusion. In the block universe, there was no other road. You could not have chosen otherwise. This can sting, but it can also heal. It tells you to stop punishing yourself for paths that never existed. You did what was written. Your regret remains, but so does your growth. Now let us speak of hope. Hope is usually a reaching into the unknown, but if the future already exists, then hope is not reaching. It is recognition. The moments you dream of already, wait in their slices, you long for them, because they are real. You have not yet arrived, but they are there. This can give hope more depth, not less. Love too becomes eternal. When you hold someone's hand, when you share a meal, when you whisper comfort, those moments are not erased. They are fixed. When loss comes, when death comes, those slices remain. Your grief is real, but so is the knowledge that what you shared is still alive somewhere in the block. Responsibility deepens, because nothing disappears. Every word spoken, every kindness offered, every cruelty delivered, all remain. This makes life heavier, but it also makes it more precious. You know that what you do matters, not because it will change the block, but because it is forever part of it. Death itself is softened. Normally we see death as the end, in eternalism. It is not erasure. Your life does not vanish. It is distributed across slices. Your childhood, your middle years, your old age, all exist. You are not gone. You are preserved in every slice you ever lived. This can bring comfort, but it can also bring humility. We are not authors. We are not writing the script. We are actors, travelers, listeners. We live the song already composed. But notice this, the fact that the song is composed does not rob it of meaning. Music is already written, but hearing it brings tears, joy, wonder. Life is the same. Every note is fixed, but our experience of it is alive. This is the heart of eternalism's gift. It reminds us that control was never the point. Presence was, to live the slice fully, to notice the details, the taste of food, the sound of laughter, the light across the sky, to know that even if you never see this moment again, it remains. It also invites us to live gently, because the block preserves every trace. Your cruelty will not fade, your kindness will not fade, so you choose carefully, not because you can alter the block, but because you are responsible for your eternal slices. There is wonder here too, because if all moments exist, then everything you fear losing is already safe. Nothing slips into nothingness, nothing falls into a void. You cannot return, but you can know it remains, and there is mystery still, because even if the future already exists, we do not know it. We meet each slice as if it is new. We feel surprise, suspense, joy, fear. The illusion of unfolding is the gift that makes life rich. So how does this change us? It makes us more attentive. It makes us gentler. It makes us grateful. It reminds us that regret is lighter, hope is deeper, love is eternal, responsibility is heavier, and presence is sacred. And what if eternalism is wrong? What if the future does not exist yet? Then nothing we have said is wasted, because the act of wondering, the act of reflecting, the act of imagining ourselves inside the block, if has already changed us, whether it is true or not. We live differently for having considered it, so we close not with certainty, but with wonder, not with answers, but with attention. What if the future already exists? Maybe it does, maybe it does not. But the question itself is enough to open us, to humble us, to guide us toward living more fully in the slice we call now. And that is where we end. Chapter 9. Living inside the block. If the block universe is real, and the future already exists, then what does that mean for our daily lives? How do we live inside such a structure? We are not physicists running equations all day. We are human beings who eat meals and fall in love, argue, dream, and laugh. What does eternalism feel like when brought down to the scale of ordinary life? Start with memory. You sit in your room and recall a childhood day. You can see your old bedroom, the colors on the walls, the toys scattered on the floor. You remember your parents' voice calling from another room. To you, it feels like a ghost, an echo. But if the block universe is true, that moment is not gone. It is still there, alive in its own slice of spacetime. The child version of you still exists. The parent's voice is still ringing. It is not memory alone. It is reality, preserved forever. Think about routine. You get up, brush your teeth, take a shower, prepare breakfast. It feels like a fresh morning. Something new, but in the block universe, that routine exists in thousands of versions. Every morning you have lived, every morning you will live, each of them is there, stacked together like pages in a diary. Now think about love. When you first meet someone important, your heart beats faster. You remember their smile. In eternalism, that meeting never fades. It is not lost in the past. It remains forever. If you marry them, if you separate, if you never see them again, each of those outcomes exists. Each has its slice. To you, only one is real. But the block holds them all. This has deep consequences for regret. People often say, "I wish I had done things differently." In a block universe, there is no differently. There is only what is. Your regret itself is part of the block, as real as the moment you think about. This can be painful, but it can also be freeing. You do not have to imagine lost futures. They exist or they do not. You are exactly where you were always meant to be. Living inside the block means understanding that our experience of time is not the whole truth. We believe in flow, but really we are stepping through rooms already built. You walk through a hallway lined with doors. Behind each door is a moment of your life. You cannot see all the doors at once, but they are all there. This can change how you treat moments. If every instant exists forever, then no moment is wasted. The quiet afternoon you spent reading a book is not erased when it ends. It still exists, preserved. The argument you regret, the laughter that lifted you, the tearful goodbye, all of it is eternal. This can soften our fear of time slipping away. Daily life also shows us hints of eternalism and déjà vu. Sometimes you feel as if you have lived a moment before, a hallway, a conversation, a glance. Maybe it is a trick of the brain, maybe not. But in a block universe, the idea of reliving a moment is not strange. You are brushing against slices that exist whether you know them or not. Another hint comes in anticipation. When you are excited about tomorrow, when you look forward to a trip or a reunion, you are already feeling a slice that exists. You cannot see it yet, but the moment is waiting. Eternalism suggests that excitement is not for something unreal. It is for something as real as the chair you sit in now. Even sorrow changes meaning. When someone you love is gone, you grieve because the present slice feels empty. But eternalism tells you that the slices where they lived are still there, still shining, still part of reality. You cannot reach them, but they are not erased. Their laugh still exists. their touch still exists. This can bring comfort. Of course, it can also bring unease. If the future already exists, then your sorrows are waiting too. Every heartbreak, every illness, every loss, they are already carved into the block. This knowledge can feel heavy, but it can also give you strength. You will walk into those moments when the time comes, but you will also walk out of them. They are slices, not the whole loaf. Living inside the block invites us to think about responsibility. Your choices are part of the structure. They matter. Even if they are fixed, they are yours. The kindness you show is real forever. The cruelty you show is real forever. You cannot erase them, but you can live them fully. It also changes how we see endings. When you finish a book or a movie, the story does not vanish. It still exists. You can return to it. You can revisit it. In eternalism, your life is like that book. It never stops existing. Even when you have read the last page, living with this knowledge may shift our values. Instead of clinging to control, we learn acceptance. Instead of fearing the future, we learn to meet it. Instead of regretting the past, we learn to honor it. Life becomes less about what we can change, and more about how we live, what is already written. This does not make us passive, it makes us attentive. If the block is fixed, then the most important thing is presence. To live each slice fully, to taste the food, to notice the light, to feel the love. Each slice will exist forever, but only you can live it with awareness. So to live inside the block is to live with wonder. It is to walk through a museum where every moment is a masterpiece. Some are joyful, some are painful, some are ordinary, but all are eternal. In the next chapter, we will look at other ways people have imagined time, because not everyone believes in eternalism. Some prefer presentism, some prefer the growing block. Together, these alternatives help us understand why the question of the future remains so fascinating. Chapter 10. Alternative views of time. The block universe is one way to see reality, but it is not the only way. For centuries, philosophers and scientists have debated what time really is. If the future already exists, then eternalism is correct. But other theories argue differently. They say the future is not real at all, or that reality grows with each passing moment. To understand why the block universe is so bold, we need to place it beside its rivals. The first rival is presentism. Presentism says only the present is real. The past has ceased to exist. The future has not yet come into being. Right now is all there is. Yesterday is a memory. Tomorrow is an idea. The only reality is the slice you occupy in this moment. Presentism feels natural. It matches our everyday sense of time. When you sit with a friend, you believe the moment exists, but the moment yesterday is gone. When you dream of tomorrow, you feel it has not yet been born. This view makes free will easier, because the future is open. You really can change what will happen, because nothing exists yet to fix it. But presentism struggles with relativity. If there is no universal present, whose present is real, yours, mine, the astronauts orbiting Earth, the idea of a single now collapses when you consider how time bends and shifts. This is why many physicists doubt presentism. Even though it feels right, it may not match the fabric of the universe. Another rival is the growing block theory. It says the past and present are real, but the future is not. The block is being built as we go. Each moment adds another slice. The loaf grows longer as time passes. Yesterday is real. Today is real. Tomorrow does not exist until it arrives. The growing block is appealing because it gives permanence to the past. Your childhood still exists, but the future is not there yet. It balances comfort with freedom. You know the past is secure, but the future remains open. Yet the growing block has its own puzzles. If the future is not real, why does relativity show events as already existing for other observers? If simultaneity is relative, then someone else's present may already include what you call the future. That makes it difficult to draw a clean line between what exists and what does not. Then there is eternalism. The block universe. It says all moments are equally real. The past is still there. The present is there. The future is there. You are just moving through them. Eternalism fits relativity well. It explains why simultaneity is relative, why there is no universal now. But eternalism is hard on our sense of freedom. It tells us the future is already carved. We do not create it, we walk into it. This makes people uneasy. It clashes with our feelings of choice and possibility. To compare these theories, imagine a painting. In presentism, only the brush currently touching the canvas is real. The strokes already made are gone. The strokes to come are not there. In the growing block, the finished part of the painting is real, and the brush keeps adding to it. In eternalism, the whole painting is already complete. You are just looking at it one patch at a time. Another way to compare is to think of a novel. Presentism says, you only have the page you are reading. The pages before have vanished. The pages after do not exist. The growing block says all the pages you have read exist, plus the one you are on. The unread pages are not yet real. Eternalism says the entire book is already written, I've bound, and sitting on the shelf. These alternatives show us how difficult it is to pin down time. Each matches part of our intuition. Presentism feels natural to the way we live. Growing block feels like a balance of permanence and openness. Eternalism fits best with relativity. Philosophers also argue about the human meaning of these theories. Presentism gives us freedom, but denies permanence. Growing block gives us both permanence and growth, but struggles with physics. Eternalism takes away freedom, but offers eternal reality. Some have even tried to combine them. For example, some suggest that eternalism is true, but we still experience something like growth, because consciousness only moves forward. Others suggest time is an emergent property, not fundamental. They argue that the universe at its deepest level may not have time at all, only relationships between events. Think about this carefully. If time is not fundamental, then maybe all three theories are incomplete. Maybe time is like temperature. Temperature is not a basic property of atoms. It emerges from how atoms move together. Time might be the same. It might emerge from the way the universe organizes itself. For us, the difference between these theories is not only intellectual, it shapes how we live. If you believe in presentism, you focus on the now. The past is gone. The future is not here. All you have is this instant. If you believe in the growing block, you honor the past, live in the present, and treat the future as open. If you believe in eternalism, you accept that everything is already there, and your task is not to change the block, but to live it fully. So what if the future already exists? Eternalism says yes, presentism says no. The growing block says not yet. Which one is right? Science leans toward eternalism. Philosophy leaves space for all three. In the next chapter, we will ask what experiments and evidence say. Can we actually test these ideas? Can physics give us hints about whether the future truly exists, or whether it is still being built? Chapter 11. Experiments and evidence. We have explored ideas and theories. But can science really test whether the future already exists? Can experiments show us if eternalism is true, or if time is something else? Physics does not make this easy, because time is not like a particle we can hold, or a field we can measure directly. It is woven into the fabric of everything. Still, there are clues. Start with relativity. Relativity has been tested again and again, and it always holds. Atomic clocks flown on airplanes tick differently than clocks on the ground. Satellites orbiting Earth must adjust their time to account for both speed and gravity. Without these adjustments, GPS would fail. These experiments confirm that time is not absolute, but relative. They support the block universe because they show that each observer has their own slice of reality. No single present exists. Another clue comes from time dilation. When astronauts travel in space, time passes differently for them than for us. This has been measured with extreme precision. Maburons, tiny particles created in Earth's atmosphere, live longer when they move near light speed. It is as if their clocks slow down. But to the Mokan, nothing changes. It simply moves through space-time on its path. This makes sense if the Mokan's entire journey already exists in the block. Now consider quantum experiments. In the famous double-slit experiment, particles like electrons behave like waves until observed. When no one looks, they interfere with themselves. When someone measures them, they collapse into a single outcome. This suggests the act of observation affects reality. Some interpret this as proof that the future is not fixed. That reality waits until measurement. But others argue differently. They say the block already includes every outcome. The act of observing simply reveals which slice you are in. Some even propose that both outcomes exist. In different branches of space-time, the experiment does not disprove eternalism. It deepens it. Another striking experiment is the delayed choice quantum eraser. In this experiment, the decision to observe a particle is made after it has already passed through the slits. Yet somehow the choice seems to affect the past. It is as if the particle's history is rewritten based on a future decision. This challenges our everyday sense of cause and effect. It hints that the future and past may be entangled, not separate, in the block universe. This makes sense because both past and future exist together. Then there are black holes. Near a black hole, time slows dramatically. If you watch someone fall toward the event horizon, you would see them slow down, almost freeze. From their perspective, they fall normally. This shows again that time is not universal. It bends and stretches with gravity. It also raises questions about what happens inside. Some theories suggest that information falling into a black hole is not lost, but preserved on the horizon. This idea fits well with eternalism, where nothing truly vanishes. Cosmology gives us more evidence. The cosmic microwave background, the faint glow of the Big Bang, shows us the universe when it was just 380.000 years old. Looking at it is like looking into the past, but in a block universe, those moments are not just past, they are slices that still exist. Our telescopes are simply reaching into them. Even neuroscience offers hints. Experiments show that the brain sometimes prepares for decisions before we are conscious of them. This suggests that what feels like a free choice may already be in motion. It does not prove eternalism, but it supports the idea that our sense of flow is not the whole truth. Of course, not all evidence points to the block. Some scientists believe time might be emergent, not fundamental. They look for clues in quantum gravity and attempts to unite relativity and quantum mechanics. In some models, time disappears entirely from the equations. The universe is described without it. If this is true, then eternalism may be an approximation, not the ultimate truth. Another experimental frontier is entanglement. When two particles are entangled, a change to one affects the other instantly, no matter the distance. This seems to violate the idea of time as a limit. Some physicists suggest that entanglement hints at a deeper reality where time is not what we think. Perhaps past and future are connected outside our flow. Then there is the search for time symmetry. The laws of physics, at their deepest level, are mostly time symmetric. That means they work the same forward or backward. If you filmed two particles colliding and then reversed the film, the equations would not care. Only entropy breaks the symmetry. This is why some argue that the arrow of time is not fundamental. It is just a feature of how entropy increases. All of this makes the question difficult. The experiments show us that time is strange, relative, uncertain, and deeply linked to entropy. But none of them settle the question of whether the future exists. They only suggest that our everyday sense of time is incomplete. So what do? We live in the tension. We recognize that relativity supports eternalism, that quantum mechanics complicates it, that entropy gives us direction. Together, they form a picture that is mysterious, incomplete, but deeply suggestive. Science does not give us easy answers. It gives us puzzles. It gives us evidence that challenges intuition. But it also gives us humility. Perhaps the future does exist. Perhaps it is fixed. Or perhaps our theories are shadows of a deeper truth. we cannot yet see. For us, the importance is not only in the experiments, but in what they mean. They force us to think about how we live. If the future already exists, then our place in the block is unique, not random. If it does not exist, then we truly shape it. Either way, the weight of our lives remains. In the next chapter, we will turn to philosophy more directly. If science hints that the future might exist, then how does this connect with ideas of predestination, destiny, and meaning? Chapter 12, Predestination and Philosophy. When we hear the idea that the future already exists, our minds often leap toward philosophy and destiny. Science tells us about relativity, entropy, and quantum mechanics. But philosophy asks about meaning, about freedom, about whether we are bound to a script. If eternalism is true, then every step you take is already there. Does that mean you are living out predestination? Predestination is an old idea. Ancient cultures often believed that fate was woven into life. The Greeks spoke of the fates, three figures who spun, measured, and cut the thread of every person's life. In Norse mythology, destiny was carved into the tree of Yggdrasil. In many religious traditions, the idea of a plan or a divine script appears. Whether it is God's will, karma, or cosmic order, humans have long wrestled with whether the future is chosen or fixed. The block universe revives these old debates in modern terms. If space-time already contains all events, then destiny is not myth, but physics. Your birth, your choices, your death, your legacy, all exist in the block. They are not waiting to unfold. They are already there. This creates tension with free will. If everything is predetermined, can we still say we act freely? For some, the answer is no. Free will becomes illusion. Our sense of choice is simply the experience of walking a path already carved. Just as Hamlet in Shakespeare's play believes he is deciding. We believe we are deciding, but the script is written. But philosophy offers more nuanced answers. Some philosophers argue for compatibilism. Compatibilism says free will and determinism can coexist. How? By redefining what free will means. Free will does not mean creating new futures. It means acting according to your nature, your desires, your reasons. If those are part of the block, then your choices are real within it. Think about reading a novel. The characters cannot alter the story, but their struggles, their emotions, their decisions are authentic inside the narrative. Hamlet's doubts are real in the play. His choices define who he is. The fact that Shakespeare wrote them does not make them meaningless. The same may be true of us. Our choices are real in the block. They matter because they are ours. Another angle comes from theology. In Christianity, debates about predestination are centuries old. Some argue that God has foreordained everything. Others argue that humans must have freedom or morality loses meaning. Eternalism echoes this debate without appealing to God. It raises the same question: if everything exists, how do we live responsibly? Philosophers also worry about moral responsibility. If someone commits harm, are they guilty? If it was predetermined, if the block already contains the act, could they have done otherwise? Most ethicists argue that responsibility still holds, because responsibility is also part of the block. Praise, blame, justice, forgiveness, all exist alongside the actions. You cannot escape responsibility by pointing to physics. There is also existential philosophy. Thinkers like Sartre and Camus focused on freedom and meaning. For Sartre, we are condemned to be free. We cannot avoid choice. Even refusing to choose is a choice. In a block universe, this freedom seems to vanish, but existentialists might argue that meaning still comes from how we live. Even if the block is fixed, we must live authentically, fully, with awareness. Predestination can feel oppressive. It can feel like we are puppets on strings. But some philosophers suggest another perspective. If the future exists, then nothing is ever lost. Every moment of joy is eternal. Every act of kindness remains forever. Every struggle is preserved, not erased. This view can bring comfort. It suggests our lives matter not because they change the block, but because they are written into it. Another philosophical issue is the problem of foreknowledge. If the future exists, and somehow we could see it, could we change it? If you know tomorrow you will spill a cup of coffee, and you try to avoid it, what happens? If you avoid it, then the future you saw was false. But if the block is fixed, then you must spill it. Your attempt to change it is itself part of the block, leading to the outcome. This paradox has fascinated philosophers for centuries. It suggests that even foreknowledge does not allow escape. The block includes your knowledge, your attempt, and your failure. Some thinkers try to soften eternalism with the idea of branching futures. They say maybe the block contains possibilities, not one fixed path. This connects to quantum mechanics and the idea of many worlds, but strict eternalism resists this. It says the block is one, not many. There is no branching, only a frozen landscape. Predestination also challenges our emotional lives. Hope is harder if the future is fixed. Regret is heavier if mistakes were unavoidable. But philosophy can turn this around. Hope is still valuable because we do not know the future. Even if it exists, regret can be lighter if we accept that no alternate path was possible. Our emotions gain new context. They are not erased. They are reshaped. Imagine life as a painting. You are inside the painting, living each brushstroke as it comes. From inside, you feel uncertainty. You feel freedom. From outside, the painting is complete. Both views are true. The block universe is the outside view. Philosophy reminds us that our lived experience is the inside view. Predestination in the block universe may be unsettling, but it also deepens humility. It tells us we are part of a vast structure beyond control. It invites us to focus less on rewriting the future and more on living our moments. To act with kindness, because that kindness will remain forever. To love deeply, because those slices are eternal. To be present, because presence is what we truly have. So philosophy does not solve the puzzle. It does not erase the tension between destiny and freedom, but it gives us ways to live inside the paradox. To see ourselves not as puppets or prisoners, but as travelers, as actors, characters, whose stories are meaningful even in a fixed universe. In the next chapter, we will explore time paradoxes. If the future already exists, what happens when we think about traveling through time? Can paradoxes like the grandfather paradox be resolved in the block universe?